Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us in Beyond the Medtech 2022 Smart Healthcare Forum, organized by TAITRA and Bureau of Foreign Trade. I am your MC today. My name is Angela Liu. With the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of influences and changes to the work as well as your life. Among all industries, healthcare industry is standing at the front line of the whole pandemic. While we are expressing our highest gratitude to the healthcare industry, we are still thinking about how do we use technologies and innovation to bring a new future to healthcare industry in Taiwan. Taiwan is stepping toward a super aging society. It is no longer a dream to be able to live up to 100 years. So how do we leverage technology, innovation, and management to address the impact of the pandemic and to bring the healthcare industry to a better future is a very important topic for today. Next, I would like to ask Madam Ling, President and CEO of TAITRA, to give us a few words. Madam Ling, please. Deputy Director General Lee of Foreign Trade Bureau, Superintendent Chen of Gan-Dau Hospital, Chief Operating Officer Mr. Hsieh of ASUS Group, Vice President Su of Chen University, Mr. Huang of Advanced Med, as well as Mr. Luo of Radica Health. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to welcome all of you to join us in Beyond the Medtech 2022 Smart Healthcare Forum, organized by Bureau of Foreign Trade and executed by TAITRA. We all know that 5G, AI, big data, and metaverse are now blooming in every aspect of our life. In terms of all these high-tech elements, as well as the elements in healthcare, are we able to create something new out of them? That's the main topic of today's forum. We understand that because of the high-tech in the healthcare industry, we are able to bring more intelligence to the healthcare industry. And in terms of the medical supplies as well as the services, they are no longer constrained in the hospital. They can be seen everywhere, even in our own homes. So they are very closely related to our day-to-day life. Smart healthcare will provide us with more customized solutions to all of us. So in our forum today, we are going to be focused on tech, innovation, and management as the three key themes of today's forum. In terms of technology, we all know that Taiwan is at the frontier in the aspect of technology. The same to the capacity of our healthcare. If we can bring the two very strong industries together, we will definitely be able to leverage the advantage and further bring Taiwan to a leading position in the international community. So today, we're very happy to be able to bring participants from the hospitals, as well as the research area and high-tech industry together to discuss these topics. In terms of innovation, I'm sure everybody's quite familiar with the concept. According to WEF, in terms of global competitiveness, Taiwan for 2 consecutive years ranked #1 in Asia-Pacific region and #4 in the global arena. And Taiwan is one of the super innovative countries, along with Germany, the US, and Switzerland. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the changes happened. So there is a lot of new business models in the startups as well as the innovative industries before and after the pandemic. So this afternoon, we're going to have a lot of representatives from the innovative industries to talk to us about their new solutions as well as their new business models. So this afternoon, lots of startup companies will share with us their experience. We also are very honored to have Frost & Sullivan to give us a presentation. Frost & Sullivan is one of the most prestigious research institutions in the world. Their reports are widely adopted by the academia community as well as the healthcare industry. And this is the very first time for Frost & Sullivan to give us a public speech and presentation about digital healthcare. So please do join us in the afternoon so as to hear from the first-hand information about products and technologies in this regard. According to the research report of EY, out of the 1,740 publicly traded companies, 54% of them are family businesses. 62% of them already have a succession plan. The success of the succession plan, of course, is highly related to the companies, but they also present a very large impact on the general development of society in Taiwan and the economic development here in Taiwan. So this afternoon, we're going to have speakers from Zhangbing Shouchuan Memorial Hospital as well as Mission Care to talk to us about their very successful succession plans and how they are able to build the blueprint and roadmap for their respective futures using this very successful succession plan. And while we're having the forum, at the ground floor of this building, we have a Medical Taiwan trade show. Besides showing the hardware as well as medical supplies and the development of the industries, there's also a lot of shows and presentation about the combination of high-tech and healthcare. So I'd like to encourage all of you to have a look, have a tour in Medical Taiwan. Because of the pandemic, a lot of international buyers are not able to come to Taiwan and visit the trade show, which is why we are also organizing online virtual trade show. So if you are not able to join us physically, please do log online to leverage the online resources and to have more business opportunities with the international community. With the support of government, TAITRA has organized a lot of activities besides Medical Taiwan and the forum today. TAITRA in August is going to organize a group to go to Singapore to attend the trade show there. And we're also going to Medica in Düsseldorf, Germany. And in September, we're going to organize an online business opportunity exchange meeting. So lots of activities and events organized by TAITRA. I'd like to encourage you to have a look in these activities. And once again, I'd like to thank all the speakers and presenters. Thank you very much for taking some time from your busy schedule to share with us your valuable experience. I'm sure we're going to be able to learn greatly from these speakers. Last but not least, I'd like to wish all the participants good health and great prosperity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Lin. Next, we're going to have Deputy Director General Li from Bureau of Foreign Trade to say a few words. Mr. Li, please. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'd like to say a big thank you to Madam Ling of TAITRA, as well as Mr. Su, as well as Mr. Huang, Mr. Luo, Mr. Chen, for your participation. This is one of the most important events in the area of high-tech and healthcare, as well as precision medicine. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining us today physically. Whether you're joining here in the forum or later, if you like, please go downstairs and have a look in Medical Taiwan. So thank you very much for your participation. It has been more than 2 years since the outbreak of the pandemic. It has changed our lifestyles, and it has changed every aspect of our lives. So Bureau of Foreign Trade and TAITRA are working together to organize events and conferences, because we believe these events are very important for exchange and learning from each other. Because of the pandemic, we are not able to see a lot of international participants. However, with the enablement of technology, we are able to combine online and offline to provide more opportunities. I'm sure we are all getting used to this format of trade shows, as well as seminars and forums. And in terms of the lifestyle post-pandemic, we will be able to get used to this new format. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, lots of people in the healthcare industry are working very hard to increase the healthcare capacity here in Taiwan to provide a more efficient healthcare to the Taiwanese nationals. They have given up a lot of their personal lives and shared their time with us to provide healthcare. So I'd like to express my highest gratitude to all of them. And today, in terms of the utilization of technology and medical supplies in Taiwan, especially for healthcare equipment and supplies, they are very important to telemedicine and precision medicine. This is one of the very important focal directions of the government. So in terms of its application and future development, as well as possibilities, we are very optimistic in this area, as I believe that they are all very promising. However, people are essential in the process. We need professional health care providers, so that these technologies and products will be made available to benefit all the users and people in Taiwan. So there's technology aspect, but humanity is also very important. And psychology is a key element as well. We learned a lot from the pandemic. We hope that in the future, the industry of healthcare supply and healthcare, the entire supply chain will be more resilient. Whether it's a raw material or the final product, we would like to see more diversified offering. And in terms of manufacturing and R&D, we would like to see more diversified development. So with the change of the global situation, we are also learning a lot from it. In the past, we were trying to have a division of labor, but now we need to think about the new landscape.
And in order to ensure the resilient development of national capacity and development of different industries in Taiwan, I think discussions today will prove to be very conducive and inspiring. For such a supply chain, and industry training for manufacturers, users, and customers. And the core, what matters the most, is a trust relationships. Customers and the suppliers need such a trust relationship to work together. I think that's one of the most obvious attributes in the medical industry. The nursing staff, the medical staff, and the patients have to create such a benign relationship so that products and services in the medical industry can generate the best results. With more discussions on these topics, we hope to advance techniques, technologies, better innovations in order to help the development of this industry overall. Finally, on behalf of Bureau of Foreign Trade, I would like to thank the representatives from TAITRA and other industry sectors. Thank you so much for expand to the international markets and bring the best innovation from Taiwan to the world. Of course, COVID-19 has brought about challenges, yet technologies such as video conferencing can be very useful. While the pandemic is better controlled, I believe that Taiwan will be able to find a more resilient, a more flexible model to work with the medical community internationally. Once again, I would like to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule to be here, and I wish you success and health. Thank you very much. Today with us, we'll be hearing the experiences from the industry, the government, and the academia. And now we'll move on to the speeches today. Our first topic is the future in tech, and we are honored to have Superintendent Liang-kung Chen, Taipei Municipal Gan-Dau Hospital, and Superintendent Chen specializes in geriatrics and friendly care environments for the elderly, dementia care, and he has been awarded Excellence Award from Health Promotion Administration. Without further ado, let's welcome Superintendent Chen. Good morning. It is my honor to be here to share my talk with you. However, I have other responsibilities after this talk, and therefore I won't be able to stay for other sessions, but it is my honor to be here. So I worked in the General Veteran Hospital before, and then to Gan-Dau Hospital. So in the 1 year and 2 months period, I think we work hard with the government and the business sector. We would like to build a medical industry for the future. So I think we want to build a smart community-based hospital. But what does that mean? Well, there are different levels or tiers of medical services. Many medical services are provided in teaching hospitals, and they have good capacity for research and therefore provide smart services. However, at these hospitals, there are so many clinics and departments, and it's very challenging to introduce smart services. However, since there is a smaller number of patients in community-based hospitals, they can introduce such models more easily. And they also need such technologies as smart services. I think we have seen these examples internationally, so they will be benefiting from smart services, because many hospitals are looking to create their own solutions, while community-based hospitals can introduce package solutions. All right, this is the first hospital in the world in Greece from 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. So for a very long period of time, hospitals are places which accommodate patients or people with pain. But accommodation itself is not sufficient to help the patient, and that's why care was added into such locations. And care became more and more specialized for the patients. Hospitals, in fact, use a wide range of technologies to improve the quality of care. We talk about precision care or precision health. We need to study genes, biomedics, and so on. And therefore, it's easier to introduce technologies in these fields. And there are new medical equipment as well. It is easy to introduce these technologies and equipment because it's quite intuitive. However, there are new technologies such as digital therapies or digital biomarkers which are less intuitive. So for medical staff, it is not very easy to understand how to apply such technologies to begin with. So we have to think about what kind of hospitals we want. Well, in 2017, there's a column article in The Economist that predicts the face of the future hospitals. So such hospitals will look like airport towers that have control of all of the patients and medical services. It is able to allocate patients to the matching medical services. I think in the medical industry, we're seeing a trend of distributed services. This is definitely a trend, and the trend is more obvious under the pandemic. I think decentralization is definitely a trend. And medical services now are moving away from hospitals and institutions into the home. That is a trend, but also a challenge. At the core of this is the care and services that have to be innovated in the medical field. Well, doctors are used to such a practice when patients come to their clinic for their care, but we need to change the paradigm. For example, create a mobile team to go to a community, and the community is our catch area. That will be helpful for the sustainability and investment of the hospitals. That also provides a better space to the patients because they can stay home. But for hospitals to function as an airport tower, there are some requirements. Well, the article in The Economist said that ICT technologies can bring so many technologies and services into the home as if these services are provided in the hospitals. This is the model of a hospital of the future, and this is also the goal we want to achieve in Gan-Dau Hospital. Our hospital is quite small. It was created in the year 2000. It's a city-sponsored hospital, but it is operated by the Taipei Veterans Hospital. There are about more than 100 beds. It provides long-term care, community care, dialysis. It is a hospital that provides community-based services, so it doesn't focus on serious cases. Its services are very diverse and need to reach out to the hospital. So we're not like large hospitals that provide centralized services and cater to patients with severe diseases or medical situations. So what we want to achieve is that the mentality of all the staff can change. We can also change the information flow, the flow of the services, and the infrastructure of the hospital. We want to see more innovations. And follow up with that, I would like to talk about what we have been doing in the past 1 year. So this is a middle size on the hospital, so it is not easy to achieve success overnight. So we need a process. What we have been doing is to improve our infrastructure and change the mindset of our staff to help them understand that this is the future and the future is coming. They need to understand what digital health is. And digital health is not only about digital device, because there are digital biomarkers, there are new digital biomarkers that can be created, which serve as the basis of the care. So we need to revise the medical process. Of course, this is not an easy task. And of course, the operation of a hospital has to take on the new model and method. That's my first point. Second, we're a community-based hospital. So as long as there are new pieces of equipment that may be useful, we would like to introduce them and test them. I joined many test cases. Sometimes it is really hard to say whether a piece of equipment can be useful without actually using it in the medical situation. So we would like to introduce all possible equipment. We test them. If they're good enough, we continue to use them. And if not good enough, we continue to work with the manufacturers. So we are very aggressive in introducing new technologies and equipment. My third point, we are not complacent with what we have done. We envision what we want to do in the future 2 to 3 years. The way we do this is that first, we think about the patients we have. As it is a community hospital, it is in the Beitou district, and its catchment area covers about 50,000 people. But it also received a patient from Bali. So we're able to catch about 100,000 patients. And 80% of the patients are the elderly population. And in fact, the elderly population is higher than this. But there are many young engineers in ASUS headquarters in that area, and that's why we also receive young patients from the company. But in fact, the elderly population is larger than this. So on the left on this graph, you see that this is a sector that focuses on physical services, and it has a lot to do with the hospital's domain knowledge. We want to help a patient to age in a healthy manner. So function re-enablement is one of the core.
So we are faced with the actual Gan-Dau community. We not only would like to provide services in the hospital, we're trying to reach out and provide medical services outside of the community or outside of the hospital. On the right, we are creating a virtual hospital. So in the future, we would like to have a hospital home, which is a decentralized healthcare providing mechanism. So we're trying to lay the foundation for decentralization of healthcare in the virtual hospital. So it's not just about the medical services, but also data of lifestyle. All of these data processing can be done there. And physically, a lot of people do not live in Gan-Dau, but they agree with this kind of a concept. They like this concept. They can actually register here as a online virtual resident in Gan-Dau community. So we're now a YouTuber as well. We provide a lot of healthcare information, regimen, as well as exercises. So if you are a resident in in the virtual Gan-Dau community, you can also have access to this information. We would like to expand the benefits of what we do at Gan-Dau and to reach out to people outside of Gan-Dau. So service decentralization, but data centralization. We're hoping to collect data in various scenarios, whether it's in the hospital, in the community, or in all kind of living conditions. All the data can be consolidated on the cloud. So data itself needs to be integrated, but the service needs to be decentralized. So that's the core concept of the structure. We hope that Gan-Dau Hospital will become a control tower. So for those of patients who need to come to the hospital, for example, if you need to get CT, we cannot bring CT to your home. So you kind of have to come to the hospital. That we can achieve as well. And with the national health insurance system in Taiwan, a lot of hospitals are not profitable, so a lot of room for adjustment so as to use your resources to the fullest. So whether how much budget you have or the compensation from NHI system, there's always overhead. For example, electricity and operational cost as well as headcount cost. So basically a lot of room for you to change your business model and provide more benefits. And long-term care and pandemic care are very much community-based. So it's a part of the community healthcare provision. So what can we do in the home? Besides home care now is only provided to the elderly who are not mobile. Let me give you an example. There is a disease that's called spinal cord inflammation. So for this patient, he or she will need to receive 28 days of antibiotics. It's one shot a day, so the patient needs to be hospitalized. They stay in the hospital for their one shot every day. That's how it's done in Taiwan. But in other countries, patients are not hospitalized because it's going to be very, very expensive. But in Taiwan, patients need to be hospitalized to receive their treatment for osteomyelitis. So for bedridden patients, we can actually provide related care. We can also modify other cares to provide those care into the home. Remote healthcare or telemedicine are aimed at people who are not mobile. But who needs home care the most? Who needs telemedicine the most? Actually, I think office workers. If you are a employee, it's hard for you to take a day off and then to get medication for your chronic disease. So telemedicine is actually very helpful for these scenarios. You don't have to take a day off. You just need to receive your care online and in a very efficient way. So based on the actual needs and technology capabilities, we are trying to provide home-based care and reshape the landscape of healthcare. We definitely need regulatory support, and Ministry of Healthcare and Welfare are helping us in this regard to provide a sandbox structure. So this is a future structure. On the left is a hospital. There is long-term care and home care. And on the right, it's a community-based services, which is to address the health of community residents. In the middle is a data center. And of course, with the assistance of Yangming Jiao Tong University, we're able to receive a lot of academic support. I'd like to thank the very good neighbor of Gan-Dau Hospital, which is ASUS Computer, to donate a whole set of a cloud-based HIA system. So all the services can be delivered via cloud. And this is a software as service. which is a new cloud-based Hsieh system. More than often, we think that every hospital has its respective Hsieh. There are pros and cons. Take Gan-Dau as an example. It would be very costly for us to maintain our system, and it would be a huge disaster if there's a hacking or hacker. Ministry of Welfare and Health is trying to promote something like this to aim to help mid-sized hospitals like us to bring data to the cloud. On the cloud, we'll be able to connect to community care and home care, and we're grateful for the assistance of ASUS. Under this structure, we are changing the infrastructure of the hospital as well as the operation. And sometimes you may think that the operation of a hospital is very inefficient. So we review the reports on a monthly basis. But when I first went to Gan-Dau, I asked them to change from a monthly basis to a daily basis so that we're able to adjust our staffing and vaccine provision on a daily basis or on a real-time basis. In the meantime, we're also changing the service structure and hardware environment of the hospital. In the hospital, we've changed the lighting system floor by floor. The new LED lighting is much more efficient in terms of power consumption. We're also able to provide human factor-based lighting to change the color temperature and so on. So usually for a hospital ward, there should be different level of lighting based on the time of the day, for example, in the morning or in the evening. So we should be able to adjust the lighting to create this day and night rhythm for patients so that we can reduce the use of sleeping pills and other sleeping regulation medicines. So we are able now to set different lighting based on the rhythm of the day and then to have it work with the day and night rhythm of human beings. We're also trying to change the atmosphere of the hospital. And also air quality is important. At the ventilation area, we install photocatalyst equipment, and we're able to improve the air quality, indoor air quality by 50%. So we are now having these equipment installed. And in terms of the health of the employees, so usually after a physical checkup, there's a lot of pep talk and chat with the patient about how to live a healthier life. So now we are creating this checklist for the employees. And if the employee is willing to, they can upload their data to the cloud, and they will be able to get this health wearable device. And there's also some reward and incentive for them to do so. According to the current result, it seems to be quite successful. And we had health insurance provided as well. And initially, the compensation for the epidemic or pandemic health insurance is pretty regular. But now with more and more people infected, we're now making a lot of compensations, more than we planned. But again, after we change the infrastructure of the hospital, we now need to change the mindset. I hope that all of our doctors and healthcare providers will know that on the one hand is a biomarker, the other is the digital biomarker. So when you evaluate a patient and provide care accordingly, you need to address both markers instead of just one. And I'd like to share with you that when we develop a medical supply or equipment, we always have a benchmark to bench our product. But now we would like to go beyond. We're hoping that the equipment will be able to provide them data and information more than the benchmark equipment. So the new marker will now go to the healthcare arena, and we're going to publish the paper and then change the guideline. But it's something doable. So we're not only trying to benchmark to a golden standard, we need to go beyond. So we are now focusing on this topic. Changing the mindset is not easy, but we are adopting new things and new equipment to help people get used to these new practices. For example, we adopted the assistive diagnostic device for PDR. In the beginning, doctors are quite suspicious. They're not sure if this equipment is accurate enough. But then they realize it's actually very accurate. So that changes the behavior of the doctors. And initially, the diagnosis rate of PDR in the hospital was actually lower than national average. But with the enablement of the new equipment, we're now able to increase the percentage. And more than half of the diagnoses now are based on this new equipment. So the behaviors of the doctors change accordingly. We also adopted an automatic lung X-ray reading system. This is a rather not so successful story. The result is accurate. However, in the model training process, it was trained using 16 models. But then doctors usually issue more than 30 results. So that's not up to doctors' requirement. So we're now further our collaboration to train the equipment with more diagnostics so as to expand its application. And also for care of dementia patients, because there's a lot of psychotic management. We used a lot of constraints in the past, but we know it's not the best approach. In Taiwan, we prescribe a lot of medicines in this regard because we don't have sufficient human care, which is why we rely heavily on medications. But then we need to have early detection, which is why we use the facial expression of dementia patients and then develop a new equipment. So we use facial expressions to recognize their symptoms and then provide our care accordingly. A lot of hospitals are now adopting this facial recognition system as a warning system to provide care. We also apply that in the dialysis room. A lot of people who need dialysis are subject or inclined to have dementia, probably due to the metabolic issues due to dialysis. So they come to the hospital 3 times a week for dialysis, and we capture their facial expressions using the equipment. And we believe that 1/3 of these dialysis patients are inclined to have dementia. So we're hoping to have early detection so as to provide early intervention.
Other than that, we introduced a VR system for doctors to explain to them their conditions. VR could be used in dissection and other classes. However, we use it to explain to the patient what their medical condition is. So this is not used for teaching case. We show the patients their CT. We turn the 3D images into VR. As you can see, this is one of the examples. From 3D images to VR, we're not a huge hospitals. So our CT is probably not as detailed. However, it is sufficient to combine the images and to produce VR-based images. And this can be used to communicate with the patients and their family. Now, on a mattress in the hospital wards. We changed the mattress to smart sensor-based mattresses. It's antimicrobial. It has 30 sensors. It helps us to detect some symptoms early on. So what do we want to detect? For example, when patients want to sit up and leave their bed, sometimes they may fall while doing that. So this mattress can send out alarms to the medical staff so that they know certain high-risk patients is leaving the bed and may fall, and therefore special attention is required. So such a monitoring system is used in the wards and sometimes in a office of the staff as well. Now, the information collected by the system can be used to predict sleep quality and the changes of activities. And POC has been done already, so we have already validated the use of the system. We can provide better community services by using smart meters. This is the project that we work with Taipei because with the smart meter, we can tell whether this person at home is using microwave or simply lighting, and therefore we know what their activities are. In another example, we use the base station of mobile phones and the cameras that are installed at the intersections that can help capture the routes of pedestrians so that we can design better road or crossing for pedestrians. In the future, we will continue to work with ASUS. In home care, we have the set-up box as a hub. These can reduce the digital gap. When the elderly may find it difficult to use mobile phones and other digital devices, however, a set-up box for TV is a lot easier to use, and we can tell whether the elderly patient at home are doing exercises as expected. And the dancing, these sport-based games can be useful, and we are going to publish a paper in Lancet. So it seems that these kind of physical exercises, can change cognitive capacity of patient, and we can use digital images to help a patient to orient themselves in a certain space. In the past, most of the images were a depiction of some locations in Japan, but now we're introducing more scenarios that depict locations in Taiwan. So again, as I said, we will continue to work with ASUS. And audio technologies can be very useful. It can be used for diagnostics. For example, we know that Donald Reagan was very humorous, but this is how he sounded at the end of his term. His talk was very fragmented. He was not able to remember some vocabulary, and later he was diagnosed with dementia. So how people sound, well, it is not necessarily from a linguistic perspective. How this person's sound can be used to diagnose some conditions. And with the assistance of ASUS, while the nursing staff or the medical staff are talking, there is automatic transcription. Sometimes when making the medical records, there are typos and so on, but the computer system can help correct the spelling. And here, this is another example because nursing staff have to wear gloves. So with gloves, it's difficult to type or to care for some wounds. So with such VR goggles, it can take some workload from their responsibilities. For example, it's easier to recognize whether they pick up the right medicine, the right tube, and so on, because the goggles can help identify the object. Other than that, during the pandemic, we want to reduce the interaction between the medical staff and the patient. So some inspection or measurements can be done automatically. So this, again, is done with the support of ASUS. It proves to be quite useful to, at the same time, monitor the patients and to reduce the risk of infection. And wearable device, we believe that can be quite beneficial. In the past, we already use these wearables to be applied on new biomarkers. So some biomarkers can be used to predict cardiovascular diseases and their risks. This is a way to provide better early diagnostics for cardiovascular diseases, and this can be done with a wearable. So we hope that such digital markers can change our practice in the future. We are doing a lot, but this is the computer system and interface used by the doctors. There is so much information coming in. However, there are new biomarkers suggesting the doctors how the symptoms of the patient have been changing. So maybe the practice doesn't change that much, but the back-end information system makes everything easier. With the smart goggles, we can help standardize at-home care, and doctors find it easier to navigate through different images. So we need stronger technical support for home care so that the quality of care can be as good as that in the hospital. I think for our team, there are always three priorities. We experiment, looking for new practices. We try the practices, we expand the use, and then we implement the new practice. Then it feeds back to the next round of experiments. That's our cycle. Cleveland Clinic, the third best smart hospital in the world, is now working with us. We with this clinic on smart care for the community. And with that, I would like to end my talk. I think we use so many technologies, but with one goal, that is to help all the elderly patients to live a life and still preserve their dignity. Thank you very much, Superintendent Chen, for your inspiring talk. And technology can add more value to healthcare. We are happy to hear the case from Gan-Dau Hospital. Now we will shift gear to the research and development of technology. So at this session, we would like to invite the best neighbor of Gan-Dau Hospital, that is ASUS, and Hsieh, Chief Operating Officer from ASUS, will give a talk on advancing precision medicine with smart tech. And he was one of the most valuable MVP starting from 2016. He has been in PM introducing new innovations and smart robots. Let's welcome Mr. Hsieh. Good morning. I have so much pressure now following Superintendent Chen's talk. But I have to give a comprehensive talk so that people don't think I'm suffering dementia. All right, joke aside, our society is aging, and you reach that status of your life. I think Superintendent Chen would be the best person to go to because he's specialized in geriatrics. Okay, and my talk today is advancing precision medicine with smart tech. It sounds really complicated, but it takes so many efforts and time, and I am part of that effort. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hsieh, Chief Operating Officer from ASUS, and it's my pleasure to be here to make this presentation. I think Ms. Lin already said this earlier. That is, Taiwan has been recognized for two things. First of all, Taiwan's ICT industry is very strong. Second, it has really good healthcare services. If these two strengths can be combined, maybe we'll be able to generate a third strength. Frankly speaking, if you look at Taiwan, the West Coast is quite prosperous. The East Coast is very beautiful. It has great natural scenery. If we can combine these two strengths, would it be great? But however, there is the tallest mountain in the middle of Taiwan, and therefore hard to connect the West and the East Coast. When we explore smart medicine, success is not easy to come by. We have encountered many difficulties and challenges. I think Superintendent Chen from Gan-Dau Hospital had shared with you some of the challenges. He contributed his domain knowledge to improve their services with our products from ASUS. But there's another thing that is very important, especially for startup. Well, hospitals are not exactly rich in financial resources. Clinical trials and experiments are all costly without financial resources. How do they apply these technologies? I think we can discuss that later. And today, I would like to focus on three things in my talk. First of all, I would like to talk about the trend in the industry. I think the trend is obvious. I think smart medicine is definitely the trend. But seeing the trend doesn't mean that we can capitalize on the trend.
Under this trend, how does ASUS make its deployment? I'm sure it's something that you're quite interested. So what is the future that we are picturing here? And what are the resources and support that we need from the government and from society? That's something that I would like to touch upon as well. So for today's topic, I would like to be focused on one thing, which is precision health. Why am I not talking about precision healthcare? In the previous presentation, we were hearing about precision healthcare. ICT is very keen into developing healthcare, but healthcare looks to us like a big tower, just like how it's depicted on TV. So if you were a medical equipment vendor, or if you're a doctor, maybe doctors have a lot of insistence and a lot of high standards about information. So this high tower is built by these medical or healthcare stakeholders. We now have driverless driving, and there is a level 2 or level 3 automatic driving. I'm sure you are quite used to it. More than often, my car is equipped with such capability as well. And when I drive, sometimes there's a red alert coming up, and then some brake is being applied. But actually, I'm not encountering anything that needs to be slowing down my car. But maybe the sensors detected some situation that they believe that they need to slow down my car. So in the healthcare scenario, this is a misjudgment. But is this misjudgment helpful? To be frank, if 1 out of 10, this signal is helping me, I'm sure it's making a big contribution. So I would not turn off this system. But in the healthcare scenario, we're always trying to figure out, this is precise enough? Is this accurate enough? What if I made a misjudgment? So how do we help the healthcare community to be more open-minded? That's quite important. So our role here is to provide assistance. We're hoping that the healthcare community can also embrace our assistance and our support. Otherwise, it will be only one-sidedness or wishful thinking of the technical or the high-tech industry. Gan-Dau Hospital is our very good neighbor. In the presentation of the Superintendent of Gan-Dau Hospital, you can see that he's very open-minded, and he's more than willing to embrace these new technologies, which is why we're working with Gan-Dau Hospital to provide precision health. ASUS is not focused on precision healthcare because that's the area of the hospital. But what we can do here is about precision health. When it comes to health, everybody knows that prevention is more important than treatment. It's a very clear message. Before we get sick, if we take more care of our health, we will be able to stay away from diseases, live a longer life, have a better quality of life. However, why are we not able to do that? Because there's no urgency. Today, if you go to a hospital for some condition, maybe you have a headache or you have a tummy ache, and then you go to the hospital because there is a urgency. But when it comes to precision health, there's no urgency. So how do we promote the idea of precision health? It's a challenge since there's no urgency. Everybody knows that to do good prevention, we need a few things in place. First of all, we need to collect data. We need information in the long term. It's not about a few days of data when the patient is hospitalized. It's actually about long-term data of your day-to-day lifestyle. Secondly, we need to be able to store the data collected. So say if we have data from the devices at home, we have data from your cell phone, we have your data in the PC in the hospital. That's then too distributed. We need to be able to consolidate the data and then put the data into one place. And then we need to process the data, analyze the data either by a human or by a machine. So how do we collect data, store the data, and utilize the data? That's the three key elements for precision health. The value of health is rather large. Let me show you some data. However, we know that it's a very valuable industry, but not everybody is able to take a cut out of this very big production value. So here at ASUS, we're focused on personalized prevention, early diagnosis, as well as health maintenance and personalized care plan. When it comes to the topic of precision health, it's not just about the ICT. If you look at the world, a lot of smart hospitals are also engaged in precision health. For example, Mayo Clinic is focused on the monitoring of blood sugar, and AI is applied to create a lot of models. Hsieh in Germany is also engaged in a lot of research work in this area. So ICT is involved in precision health. Hospitals are also involved in precision health. Gan-Dau Hospital is also trying to bring its capacity to the community and to the homes of the residents. So it's a very highly related to the topic of precision health. When it comes to precision health, it's highly related to hospitals as well. And also, data platforms and wearables are important. And more importantly, how do we analyze and utilize the data? Let me share with you ASUS experience. In terms of precision health, what is ASUS doing? As mentioned earlier, everybody knows that health is important, but not too many people are able to maintain good health. Why is it so difficult? I guess one of the reasons is that you don't want to be constrained by a lot of equipment or devices that you're not used to. So, for example, the best way to manage your health is to manage without you knowing about it. So people think about wearables. Of course, wearables is one of the solutions. However, there's a lot of things about wearables that people have questions. For example, is this wearable able to capture data precisely? And this is, a very critical question. We spend a lot of time creating devices that are able to connect with the hospital systems. The first wearable that we think about is that if you don't want to wear 12-lead EKG, and if you don't want to have a pressure meter wrapped around your arm, and you don't want to have electrodes attached to your head, maybe we can use something that you're already used to monitor and manage all the things that we would like to manage. That's why we created this watch, which is a rear watch. On the watch, there's a lot of sensors. There's PVG, there's ECG sensors. A lot of hospitals came to ask us, is this accurate? Comparing with the EKG devices that we have in the hospital, is your watch accurate? I can only answer in a bitter smile, telling them that what you have in the hospital is a 12-lead device, whereas the watch is a 1-lead device. So we cannot compare them. However, we don't get to see, for example, the ventricle diseases of the patient like the hospital can do. However, the watch is able to know if there is an arrhythmia or a skip of a beat of the patient. So the watch may not be able to do 100% of what the medical device can do in the hospital, but maybe the watch can achieve 80%. That's very helpful already. And clinically, there is a old gentleman who has a missing heartbeat problem. We asked the patient to see a doctor the very next day. And then after he went to the hospital, he had a stent installed in him. So I think that's helpful. And also, in terms of blood oxygen, usually it's measured using a penetrative approach, whereas on the watch, it's a reflective approach. So is the reflective approach accurate? I honestly answered the question saying that the technology is different. However, here there are two sensors. We not only look at the blood oxygen on the back of your hand, we can also measure the blood oxygen on your fingertip. Even though this is a reflective approach, the accuracy can be as high as 99%. Would that be satisfying? Still, the doctor was a bit hesitant. Why? Because this is something that he is not used to, because this is a different technology. So the doctor needs to wrap his head around this new idea. And this is actually challenging for conservative doctors, which is why doctors are hesitant. And we can measure blood pressure using the watch. But again, the question that we got is that, did you pass the FDA requirement? We're now applying for FDA approval. But in terms of accuracy, comparing with the air pressure, which is plus minus 15% precision, whereas our device is plus minus 7%. So we are doubling the accuracy here. But again, we can only apply for permission using the category of a health-related device instead of a medical device. I'm sorry, too much sideway information. But again, in terms of devices, we're trying our best to help monitor and manage people's health without the user knowing about it, so that we're able to collect the data and the information in the long term. And the data is critical to promote long-term health. Besides the watch, we also have a comprehensive cloud platform to collect data. We have more than 500 people in the AI team to build the models. As the previous speaker mentioned earlier, personalization is very important. The device basically looks at the personal data of the user. So all the patterns are things that the user needs to pay attention to. So with the data available, with AI and related studies, we definitely need computation, which is why ASUS operates one of the fastest computational clouds here in Taiwan. So in terms of the product roadmap, a few areas. The first one is what we heard earlier. We're trying our best to collect data without the user knowing about it. We're trying to collect data using the watch, something that everyone wears every day. And in terms of mobility, we're also trying to provide, for example, portable ultrasound to provide more services for the hospital. And also there's a remote care platform. So the positioning of ASUS is you can use the device for personal care. You can also use the device to get hospital care. From firmware to software and hardware, it's all done by ASUS, which is why we're able to address the needs and requirements of the system of the hospital, as well as the need of customization.
Other than that, we also provide telemedicine package. As you can see, it is not only a platform. It includes measurement devices, because devices can be connected to these platforms that users can again see such personal information for their own use or used by the hospitals. In order to help medical institutions or care institutions to utilize such data, this is the back-end interface we created for them. And this can be commercialized very quickly. We also provide educational information and materials so that the medical staff can use to communicate with patients and their family. This is what we have been doing with hospitals. We want to deliver better equipment, more secure information flow. And this is the platform that we provide to hospitals. Next, on ultrasound. All right, so why did we want to create a handheld ultrasound device? Well, a VIP in hospitals, or the doctor in a hospital one day told me that for all of the doctors in hospitals, it seems that everyone have a stethoscope with them so that they can use on the patients at any time. But what if they have another device which is mobile, for example, the mobile ultrasound device? It is nice, but it's too expensive. It's $600,000 NT. So this doctor talked to one of our senior managers saying that, is it possible for ASUS to create a affordable ultrasound device to benefit all the doctors in Taiwan? So that's how we began our journey in exploring the possibilities. Then we found that it's very difficult to produce inexpensive device because it requires MCUs. And the MCU can be quite expensive. It also requires the probe. It has to be hand-shaped and therefore very expensive. What we can do is cut the cost to 1/3, but that is not enough, still too expensive. Because what we want to do is that such devices can be used in remote and rural areas so that smaller clinics can still use it to provide services. Therefore, we came up with this model of leasing the device. It can be a bit expensive, but at least it's affordable, and the device can be used in more areas in Taiwan. For example, if you're in Taitung on the eastern coast of Taiwan, and patient came to you saying that I have a stomach ache, and the patient examined this patient's stomach saying that, oh, that's you have these symptoms because of this and that. But with the ultra device, the doctor no longer has to just say to the patient that, oh, it's probably just some general stomach ache, and I give you prescribe some medicine, and you can go home. However, with this device, the doctor may be able to tell that there's some water in the stomach and send this patient for further care, and that may be able to save the life of the patient. Okay, and I think earlier it was talk about how technologies can be used to detect retinopathy. But here I would like to use colon cancer as an example. There could be breast cancer, lung cancer, and so on, which may all benefit from AI imaging for diagnostics. Now, looking into the future, what challenges do we have? I think one challenge is the regulation. We hope that the government will be able to lift the regulation. Of course, we know that things cannot be perfect. Just like the self-driving car I talk about, it's not perfect, but it is able to save lives. take the Hsieh hospital information system, for example. Now we're seeing different hospitals have their own systems, but how to integrate the information or integrate various systems is very important. The interface, if it is integrated, that can help the doctors to use it more easily. Of course, hospitals have limited financial resources, so we provide the leasing model through which we can promote the use of new technologies and devices. I think finally, I would like to say that it is my pleasure to be here to share what we've been doing. I said earlier that this is a huge market, but not everybody can take a cut from it. So think carefully before you want to invest in anything. But of course, if you want to make this industry better, we need to work together. And we welcome ideas at ASUS. If you have some ideas, if you want to use high-speed computation, if you want to do some POC, we would love to work with you. In the interest of time, I would like to end here. Thank you very much.